Banana Slam Jam.
Joined by BSJ, who's coming fresh off. So a lot of casting, a lot of casting to say the least.
It's been a long day.
Been a long day.
It's a real grind here. We're all going through it together, though, so it's been a good experience. Just tiring, but nothing wrong with that.
I bet it's crazy to think because here you are. I guess this is what really the second week you've been here or been there or going to the BTS studio because last week we'll talk about it, but other regions happening. But of course the EU/CIS region kicked off just a couple of days ago, and now this is where the real grind. I mean, for the next 2.5 weeks or so. Going to be casting some Dota, so that's sounds fun, but at the same time, that's going to be a grind. It sounds like.
Yeah, not a single day off for about 23 days. So we, you kind of get used to it in the sense that you're like, okay, here we go again. But your body, it does not get used to it. So figuring out one step at a time. But the Dota itself has been really good, and that part of it's been super enjoyable. And I wouldn't take it back, but by no means am I saying I would gladly do it again right after.
No, I hear you. It's definitely. I've had some longer events myself, and it's one of the going into it. I've had 2.5 week long events. The one of the We Play events. I was actually almost there for a little over 2 weeks, and it's like going into it, you're super excited. You're like, okay, this is gonna be a lot of fun. But then by that 5th, 6th day, you kind of realize, wow, I'm like not even halfway done yet. It's a lot more to go, but hey, at the same time, like you said, there could be certainly many worse things, and ultimately a great game that we definitely love to watch. So, anyways, with that said, guys, excited to be here. Worth pointing out, I'm sure you guys either tuning in or listen to the podcast or even watching the live stream. We did not appear last week. BSJ was, again, talking about being busy, especially with the other regions. That really kind of screwed up the time schedule there for him. But with the European and CIS region a little more friendly, and thus able to make this week and, of course, hopefully future weeks to come happen. So just a point on that. And as far as this episode goes, though, guys, we're going to be talking a lot more about the ESL event. But also, we're going to be joined just a short couple of minutes here by MSS. Formerly of Chaos. Of course, I say that formerly because no longer Chaos, but now known as Quincy Crew. And excited to talk with him and see how things are going and whatnot. So that'll be in a couple minutes. But I figure before we bring him on, going back to the ESL event, the North American region, one that he, of course, participated in just last week even. Quincy Crew ultimately getting the runner-up. They lost to Evil Geniuses in the finals of the ESL event 3-1. But the NA region, you also had teams, so it's EG Quincy Crew Business Associates with Moo, Nine, Brax, Moose, and Fear, of course. And then Crazy. Crazy, a mix of some players there. Skitter, Bryo, Kazu, Aoi 2000, and Moo Meander, their roster. So only 4 teams, but definitely a solid 4 teams there. So what do you think about the NA region?
Overall, it's clear that we're a step down from watching SCA and EU, but I think overall it was good. It was fun to watch Dota, and it was Dota I'm very familiar with in regards to the heroes I see in pubs and the players I see in the game. So that part of it was pretty cool. It's weird to watch Dota in a way that you know all the players, you know all their personalities, you can literally envision this is what they're thinking or saying during their game as something's happening to them when they're like losing mid or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely unique for me in that way. But overall, definitely a bit sloppy, but in the way we all know and love NA Dota to be.
So taking a little bit of a step back here, I guess it's worth pointing out, especially since we weren't on last week, because within that time, this is when all this announcement happened and everything, the ESL event itself, to be clear what's going on. So they decided, obviously, with the cancellation, essentially, of the LAN event and the DPC season essentially on hold right now on top of that, they're like, we still want to throw something. And so they changed it to an online format. It's no longer an official DPC event. It's just simply an ESL event. But there's still good money on the line. There's good money on the line, but obviously with it being online, they do have to do it by somewhat region-based. Again, the only unique one is the European and CIS regions are playing together, figuring they're close enough, not having to deal with the latency too much compared to other regions. They can play together, get some ultimate format going there. But they also invited, other teams that didn't necessarily qualify for the major to make up all these regions and have it play out. So that idea itself, I mean, again, it's obviously a win for ESL in the sense that they still now get some solid content out of it. But it is really cool to certainly see them stepping up pretty quickly, honestly, in terms of when the LAN was supposed to be and how quickly they had to react to it. Yeah, I think this was actually a great substitute for putting something on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're making lemonade out of lemons, or whatever you want to call it. I think they had to. The show must go on. I think I've heard as I've been here, and everyone wants Dota. The players are at home playing Dota, so might as well make use of that and make use of a planned event. And I think it's kind of setting up for things to be coming. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of this next year, obviously with the league system, but also kind of just forced upon us a bit early by everything going on in the world. And I think it's a good direction to head overall. And I'm looking forward to this being more of like the forerunner for everything that should probably be soon to come.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of a take back. I was thinking about this too. Especially for myself, a little bit older, not to age myself too much, but as far as the esports side of things go, when majority of the events, a hefty majority, were more online based. You had the full-on events online based, and of course the restrictions there is it is by region based, and we really haven't gotten over that hurdle yet, unfortunately. But it is a little bit of a flashback for me, and I'm sure many others, that hell, even the early Dota 2 days, of course, original Dota, Han, come from that, CS 1.6, etc., StarCraft, keep going on. Obviously, in the last 5-6 years plus, we've come to know a lot of these full-on events being these LANs and everything, and we certainly look forward to those happening once again. But it wasn't too long ago where these events were kind of as we are at now. So, I mean, I guess that's almost to help put things in perspective somewhat, or maybe just help people, remind people that, not even 10 years ago, this is exactly what would have happened anyways when it comes to competitive gaming, and as we know it now is today with esports. So it is kind of a nice look back there. And as you pointed out too, it's ultimately a preview, essentially, of what maybe the new DPC season will be when it comes to next year there. So yeah, a couple different ways to look at it, but let me actually see if MSS is ready. Get to join us. Feel free to hop on. Got that commentary going on. It's been a while since I've done commentary, man. I gotta say, you're grinding it out yourself. By the way, that third game, holy crap, that was something.
That whole series was something, man.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
There we go. It looks like MSS, we cannot hear you. Make sure you're not muted. There we go. Now we hear you. How's it going? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing all right. Chilling.
Chilling. Yeah, it's a unique time right now, to say the least, with everything going on. So how are you? How are you keeping busy? What are you doing as times are so different right now?
I mean, honestly, I'm being very unproductive right now. To be completely honest, I feel like most of my days I'm just chilling, watching random YouTube videos, and just killing time.
Right on.
Yeah.
Not as much Dota. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, it's pretty hard to get motivated right now. I mean, it'll probably fade away soon, but like currently, it's pretty hard to get that feeling to want to play Dota, like grind Dota right now.
Do you guys have anything coming up at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing in all the online tournaments right now. But yeah, it's not the same feeling, as like a LAN tournament. I mean, this is just me personally.
No, I hear you. It's again, this is a very unique situation, of course, with everything going on, and it's got to adapt, but at the same time, it's understandable because things aren't the same, frankly. And kind of speaking of that, I do got to ask, with the whole year and also a somewhat unique position as several others, your organization, unfortunately, with Chaos, decided to drop you guys. Was that a surprise to you when that happened, and what was the deal with that?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we kind of just like got the news out of nowhere. Like Jack came down to the practice room and he was like, "Yeah, we're we're getting booted, pretty much," and we kind of had to figure out what to do from there. I mean, there's not much to do, to be honest. It's like that's just life. Like we don't really have much in control.
For me, back when I tried to do my tier 3 team run and everything, we were having issues getting on, like getting a sponsor in the first place. And for teams like mine, it made sense that people were hesitant to sponsor us. But you guys are a team that has consistently qualified for majors and minors. You were at TI. Why do you think it's so difficult to maintain a sponsor for you guys? Like, obviously, you guys don't have any conflicting players. Is it just the market at an A, you feel like, or?
Yeah, that definitely has to do with it. I mean, one is like the sustainability, right? Like it's very expensive to like support an NA team, and I mean, and you're just like you're pretty much gonna lose out of money, and so if you're willing to do that, you're gonna sponsor an NA team. I mean, this is a weird time too, because like with the disease and like not playing at LAN tournaments, that gave them like a reason, like per se, to drop us. So that's what pretty much happened.
Does that like consistency affect you guys, you think, at all over the last couple of years? I know you guys don't always have the exact same roster, but I know for me it was a pretty big stressor to worry about that outside of Dota. Does that really affect you guys at all, or does like Jack kind of manage it mainly for you guys? Or
are you talking about like roster wise?
Say it again.
Wait, when you mean consistency, you mean like roster wise?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying roster. I'm saying organization wise. Like even last year when you got dropped before TI, and then like does that affect the team? Like, because you guys, I'm not saying you've always had the same roster, but you've had similar players on your team.
Yeah. I mean, mostly we've been like the same 3 to 4 players.
Yeah.
But I mean, for orgs, I mean, you always want to like be on the same org for like as long as possible, and I mean, these past 2 like big orgs we were on, like Ford and Chaos, those were just, I feel like they're kind of special cases. Like the Ford one was a weird one for sure, because they legit just went bankrupt, right? And I mean, in that case, it actually benefited us because it was right before TI, and we ended up like being the quote unquote winners of that dissolve, because we got a lot more money than we should have. That's for sure. And for the chaos thing, it's I mean, when you get dropped, it's like you just gotta move on pretty much. Like you'll find something like eventually. I mean, right now it's gonna be pretty hard. Like, just to be honest, it's gonna be really hard to get another org until like things settle down. But yeah, I mean, it sucks because we lose our salary during this time, but that's just life. Like, you just got to deal with it pretty much.
Respect that, man.
Yeah, no, obviously a good attitude to have about it. Gotta keep rolling. And speaking of that, you guys already mentioned it before we had you come on. You finished the runner-up in the North American region. You gave EG a run for the money in the finals there, ultimately losing the series 3-1. But how was it playing in that online event first off? And what did you think of the result in the end? Were you satisfied being the runner-up there?
Yes and no, I guess. I don't know. That tournament it felt like we were pretty much winging it, to be honest. Like, It was definitely not some like try hard, like we're putting in 100% for this. But I mean, we were like trying our best in games for sure. To be honest, the competition wasn't that tough except for EG. So we kind of breezed through the group stage, and then once the grand finals happened, I would say EG they were more prepared, and they definitely like had more like strats, I would say, because during that time they were like 100% playing more pubs than us. Like, that was the one thing during that time. Most of our players weren't playing that many pubs, so like they definitely had that over us.
All right. Well,
interesting question I've got for you personally, just because I'm wondering because this came up for me recently, because I've been casting ESL and I played a few pubs last night and I hadn't played for a week and a half and I was terrible. I was wondering for you, like, how long does it usually take to become rusty for yourself, and how long does it usually take you to get back on track as a player when it comes to like pubs and stuff?
Getting rusty. It's pretty hard because like even if I don't play, like when I say I don't play pubs, like I'll play like one or two, like a day or something. Like
Okay.
that's what I mean. And like of course I'm not including scrims, so I'm playing scrims as well, and so like I usually don't get rusty by like not playing a lot of pubs, but what I know what you're talking about. But when I do like actually just not play Dota for a long
Yeah.
time, like it'll probably be like a week or two, and then
Okay.
you're like when you play your first pub back, you're like holy shit, what's happening? But for me, it'll probably take one day. Like if I play like 8 games in one day, like I'll probably get back.
It's pretty
First,
crazy for me
yeah.
when I feel that. I was just curious from your perspective.
It'll probably take like 3 to 4 games before it's like things are feeling normal, and then you just start getting accustomed to.
Kind of curious with everything going on right now, and again, this whole format change with the ESL, of course, now with the online format and competing in the North American region only as a result. We've also got the announcement recently for DPC next season that it's got, you got the regional seasons there, so it's going to be that online play, a lot of that happening. Is there party? Would you be fine if things transition more to an online play as of right now? Because again, we really don't know, right? Where things are going to end up right now. We already know Cycle 4 is not happening. Cycle 5's up in the air. Would you be cool with that idea, or do you think there's something about lands that you would really miss and you hope those come back sooner than later?
I would always like lands to be a thing. But if it was only online play right now, it's like I would just go with it because like that's the only thing we have right now. So like I would be down for online like leagues and tournaments. It would also like get us used to like what's gonna come in the next DPC circuit. So yeah, it should be interesting.
Yeah, what was your obviously this was before this all happened now, but when you heard about next season and the whole regional ladders and everything, or regional seasons, what was your reaction to that idea?
I was interested and like kind of weirded out, but I was mostly happy because like that system benefits teams like us. Like if we were to play in that like system like this year or last year, like we would be qualified for TI pretty much.
Sure.
That's how I saw it. So like it definitely benefits like teams like us. Probably doesn't benefit like the secrets and the like EGs and all those teams. The one thing I was curious about was like how it would affect the rosters,
Okay.
like EG, like they have Abid and they have Ramses, and they would have to like stay in NA longer because like they don't usually stay in NA for that long, like currently.
Yeah, it's usually just for the qualifiers, I guess, right? And then they're pretty much back to wherever they're from. Yeah.
Go back home.
And then when the LAN happens, yeah, that's a good point actually. That's definitely an interesting take on it. So, guess some adapting would need to happen. But yeah, it's more and more recently we have you guys yourself, Biver, obviously a part of your team from I believe Denmark there. Former Han guy. Shout out to Biver. Always fun to see him successful. I'm sure he talks about that all the time. No, but yeah, that is an interesting point actually. What do you think about your current team chemistry? By the way, you said you've had somewhat of a core, but the current roster that you have, you think you guys are in a good spot? Again, you did qualify. Not to remind you, I guess it's almost negative right now because with the LAN and everything that unfortunately got canceled as a whole. But you guys are looking really good up to that point. You happy with the roster right now?
I'm pretty happy. Like coming into the LA major that was supposed to happen, I was very confident. Like the boot camp coming into it, like we were doing very good in scrims. Like I was expecting at least like a top 8 or top 6 at that major. Like that, like we were like gelling super well at that time, and I think we have a lot of potential for sure. We're kind of like slacking off right now, which is pretty bad. But if we're all in tryhard mode, like I feel like we can be a top 8 team in the world, like easily.
All
I
right.
think we have the players to do it, and we like the thing about this team is like the mindset of most of our players are really good. Like they're very willing to learn and listen to each other, which is like a very positive thing for us.
Definitely. Kind of on that note too. Do you guys feel confident with the current patch? Do you like the patch and where it's at, or do you like to see some? I mean, you're always going to want to see changes, I'm sure, but do you like the current patch?
Yeah, I think it's pretty balanced for the most part. I mean, there's some heroes kind of need to get tweaked a little, but I think it's in a pretty good place. Like people are starting to figure out some more heroes that they're like starting to spam that they see potential in. So like I think we're in a good spot right now for the most part. Yeah, I don't think it's gotten to the point where it's like super stale yet. Like people are still trying to like experiment with stuff.
Yeah. BSJ, anything else from yourself?
I'm curious. This is like a completely out of the blue question, but obviously I've been playing more offlane in pubs, and I'm wondering in NA if you have a similar experience to me, where do you pretty much just get hard counterpicked every single game you play pubs? And if so, like how do you practice for carrying in your games? Because like in professional matches, it's actually your job to like take over the game as an offlaner sometimes. So is that all you do? You only get that practice in scrims, or do you have a different pub experience than I do?
I mean, pubs are playing offlane in pubs is a real mixed bag because most of the time you're laning with a really bad player.
Yes.
So the thing is, like, I mean, that's another reason why I don't like to play pubs at home because it's like I'm not motivated to play these pubs because I mean, I've always been a believer in scrims are way better practice. Like you get to see more like realistic situations. Uh, in these pubs I play, I just kind of just YOLO it for the most part. Like you're not gonna see much. You're pretty much gonna see two supports. Cause like the way the system is, you're gonna see two supports. I just pick a random hero, hope for the best. Yeah, and you know, hopefully this hero is strong enough to like get something. You know.
I just think a lot of people like that are watching always ask me like, "What do you pick in pubs?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe I'll ask somebody who is a known professional offlaner." Because for me, I just get hard countered with a Pangolier 4, and I just get shit on. So
I mean, it's gotten to the point where like, I mean, I just don't care about MMR anymore. So I don't really like. If I cared about MMR, I would be like furious. Like I would be getting so mad.
That makes sense.
Pubs. But like, I actually stopped caring and just like try to focus on like what I can get from these pubs, which is pretty, minimal in my opinion. Yeah. Because after a certain point, you're not like things just go crazy, especially in these NA pubs. Like after like 10 minutes, NA pubs are like free for all.
It's kind of weird to think, right? Like again, the comparisons to traditional sports, like I think basketball, for example, the comparison would be, your NBA athletes going to the park or whatever and playing some pickup games with some random people. Like obviously they expect it to be way better, and how much would they really get out of it? I guess the idea is it kind of just keeps you in shape enough to kind of going through the motions to help you when it comes to pub play, but certainly I could see it being a frustrating and maybe not all the time a big time learning experience. So it's interesting to kind of compare that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like the main thing you can take away from pubs is like it'll help you be mechanically good. Like it'll keep that like consistent. Yeah, I mean it's just pretty rough for offlaners. Like mids and carries, in my opinion, they're like the easiest. I feel like most mids and carries should be like at least 9.5 now. I feel like that's how easy it is. That's
the
how
call
easy
out.
It is to
Nice.
I mean, if they care about MMR, that's the big part.
Okay.
Like I feel like if you care about MMR, you're like super tryhard in pubs. It actually should be pretty easy to climb now. Like especially because it's like plus 30, minus 30 all the time. So like it should be easy if you're like super tryhard, counter picking everything, last pick carry or whatever, last pick mid.
Gotcha. All right, well, MSS, I think that just about does it here. Really, obviously, appreciate having you on. Definitely, thanks for taking some time to join us. And any shout-outs, anything else before we do let you go here?
Yeah, shout out to my sponsors, Oxygen and Water. They keep me alive. They let me play Dota, so yeah, nice. That's pretty much it.
Right on. All the sponsors.
Hold on.
Sorry.
All right, MSS. Obviously, stay safe,
Thanks,
man. Good luck in moving forward. We'll be watching, and best of luck to you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, BSJ. There we go. Got to be joined by MSS there because he's been around for a while. And does he come from the Dota days as well, or did he start more in Dota? I actually meant to ask him that. Oh well. But I know.
Too late.
Yeah, right. Oh, he's gone forever. Whatever. No, but obviously, big shout out to him for joining us, and he has been around. Even you look at his Wikipedia page; it's kind of crazy to see. Like he's been on nearly every major organization, from Fnatic to Evil Geniuses to the more recent one. Like he really has been around, and it's like one of those takes, right, where it's like that can be seen as good and bad, I guess, but to kind of hopping around a lot. But let's be honest, a majority of the Dota 2 scene, especially if you've been playing since the early days, 2012, etc., that it's kind of that's going to happen for the majority of the players. There's very few that have very limited amount of teams, of course. So, but smart Dota player, happy to have him on, and looking forward to seeing how they continue to do. Because it's again we had on. God, I'm blanking on his name now. Our last guest of NIP. Help me out here.
Tanner.
No, I wanted to say Gunner, and I'm like, I know that's not it. I shouldn't say that.
It's close. Tanner, Gunner. I see where you're going with that.
There you go. Anyways, we had Tanner on, but again, same situation. The idea that they qualify for this major, they qualify for this land, super excited, and MSS, as he even pointed out there, that he felt really good about themselves. Top 6, he would have been predicting almost for his team. Like that was confidence, and for good reason, especially being a local lane in that sense. But got pulled from underneath them. But obviously, a lot has changed for many people, but it's good to see at least adapting and moving forward, making the best of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like everyone's doing their best. They'll interpret it all their own way, but some rosters are moving, and right now it's kind of funny to see all the smorgasbord of teams thrown together because you're locked into your region, and there's a lot of teams like EG that just have foreign players. So it's been funny to see I'm kind of segueing into this ESL 1 LA major thing going on here, where it's kind of like really high level pubs that are organized. It's almost like an in-house league but you get the same teammates every single time, and maybe a couple of them are from your professional team. It's just like OG is effectively 3 of the members, and then they took Seb back, and they brought in 33 from Alliance, or previously from Alliance, another topic of the discussion. But I've been enjoying the games a lot, and it's like slightly sloppy Dota in the sense that you can tell they're not most, not all the teams are full-on teams, but then you have teams like Secret who are kind of just like peak form. They're Secret, so they're just going to do their thing. They have the full roster. And somehow, like every game we've had, or every series we've had, for the most part, has gone to 3 games. And I'm not paid by the game. So our days
come on, teams
are really long, and we would appreciate if OG would take the second game serious. Nah, it was really fun. I was casting that series. Obviously,
they almost lost that third game, man.
Yeah, I know. I actually had a really good time casting it, but the fact is we started at 4 a.m. every day, and we ended about 4 p.m. today. So it's like we came in today seeing Nigma versus Cyber Legacy and OG versus Bait, and we're like, we're getting out of here in 7 hours, boys. Like this is gonna be a quick day, but that was not the case at all. Last thing I thought I was going to be was late for this podcast. That's for damn sure. Because every other day we've gotten out before 4 p.m. And so lo and behold, the day that we were all like, yes, it's going to be over very quick today. Complete opposite result there. So, but yeah, it's been a good time, like I said. And you said, go ahead. What was your next topic of conversation? I've been blabbling. I've been up for too long.
You're fine. Definitely shout out to you, BSJ. I know, like I said, I've done a couple of those myself. I can only imagine, but the long grind days, man, for joining us here. But four best of fours four best of threes every day. So the potential of even 12 games is there. So for some longer days. But kind of going back to before we continue, well, let's just kind of recap real quickly about the other regions before we get a little bit more into the European and CIS region. So, not a lot to talk about here, but you got South America. You had the winner of that being Beast Coast, as they defeated No Ping Esports in the finals. Out in Southeast Asia, you had what was it? Fnatic. Yeah, Fnatic.
Fnatic beat Adroit.
They beat Adroit. Yes.
Yeah. For TLDR, for anyone who didn't watch the event at all, it was pretty much a same script. Where in the group stage, the team that came in favored, Fnatic, EG, as well as Beast Coast, just kind of dropped the ball in at least one series. In case of Fnatic, 2 series, and they were almost eliminated in the group stage. And then all of them put their tryhard pants back on, or maybe, gathered together as a team and said, we need to focus. These teams are not bad enough for us to just clown on them or whatever. And all of them came from the lower bracket. Every single one of them came from the lower bracket, meaning they got second or third in their group. And they won that game in a best of 3. And then they all pretty much just owned the finals. Yeah, EG only won 3-1, but all of them were relatively convincing. And it was kind of just like the best team won in the end. But they did not look like the best team for the entirety of the event, as MSS said. They took the series off EG in the group stage. And every team, obviously, that lost the finals did beat the team they lost to in the group stage, because they were all at the top of their bracket, 3-0 after the group stage. All regions were 4 teams. They all played each other in a round robin. And, so overall, it's kind of funny. I'm like, is this deja vu? Every single freaking finals is just the lower bracket team that we all thought would win in the first place, just taking it all. So. Good games, though. I thought it was cool to see every region's interpretation of the meta. For NA, Terrorblade, Wraith King every single game, and SCA, we're seeing like Grimstroke Ricky every game, and in SA, we're seeing like a lot of like first round SS Clockworks and stuff like that. So slightly different take. And now we're seeing EU different. Like Coddle's a huge hero here. Coddle Ember has been massive. So. Wherever you're from, you can definitely learn a lot from any region in terms of the heroes they're making use of. And I also think it's funny because they really reflect what the region's about. What does Terrorblade Wraith King scream out to you from the North American region? And the simple answer is a lot of creeps will be hit. So it's a good example there.
A lot of RTZ going on.
Have you been watching much of it yourself?
I've been chiming in here and there. I honestly haven't been watching too much of it, much as I would like. I am starting to pay attention more to the European CIS because, getting to be blunt about it, and I'm sure I'm definitely not alone to say this. The European CIS one was the one where I'm like, okay, this actually is interesting to me. We do got a lot of these good teams clashing.
It is way better Dota. I'll tell you, you're not. That's not some, false.
Yeah.
Understanding of whatever.
Yeah, like I had a secret Liquid yesterday. I mean, again, 2 really big teams going out, obviously. So it's certainly Liquid fanboy here, as many
I saw
know,
you
so.
in chat. Let's go Liquid.
Yeah, and then the series happened, and then typical Liquid against.
To be fair, Secret was
yeah.
like I was trying to view the game from Liquid's perspective, and I was like, yeah, they don't want to fight right now because like DP ult's on cooldown and stuff. Slark's like 600 gold from Diffusal, and every single time I could look at their lineup and say they just want to chill for a bit. Secret's just like ramming it down their throat, and it was a clinic by Secret in a way that's like Secret has their own way of doing things, and so does OG. But when these teams watch it, you just like have to emulate it in some way. You can't beat it unless you are better than them at their own strategy because they're just so good. And to be fair to Liquid, like anybody in the world playing Secret at that form would just get stomped. Like they were just so good. And I think it's not an accurate representation of Liquid's potential moving forward.
Did you guys cast the China region as well?
No,
Okay.
The China region was going on at the same time as all the others. So they were doing that on like a second channel.
Okay.
And just too many games to be cast by one channel.
That's fair. Yeah, because I was actually looking at the results of that, and the one interesting thing I do find about the Chinese region is maybe as you'd almost expect, because we've seen this from them before. They're organized online tournaments there and everything. The 6 teams competing in it all had their full rosters good to go, from the looks of it at least. And ultimately, in the end, though, RNG, Royal Never Give Up, did win it. They beat Newbie in the grand finals there.
They were first in the group stage and
Yep.
first in the playoffs. And Newbie was the big surprise, I'd say. Obviously, IG and PSG LGD being a bit of a surprise as well, getting
LGD got 5th. They got knocked out.
Yeah,
before the
they were
playoffs.
both knocked out in the group stage. So that was a bit odd, but at the end of the day, I'm not too surprised about that just because the China region is obviously very competitive. And just Newbie's a very new roster to the scene. Like, most of them are names you've never heard of. And them making it to the finals the way they did against such strict competition was impressive for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, again, LGD, this has been an interesting year to say the least for them. Now with everything happening, we'll see if they even have a chance to really recover what's been pretty atrocious. But yeah, so that's kind of all the other regions. But again, back on the European CIS, like I said, this is only day 3 that just happened today, and we're playing 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's 14 days in total. So, and like you said, it's 14 days in total of this group stages of the round robin. It's 2 groups of 8 teams in each group. And then at the end of that, the top 4 from each group will advance on to a double elimination playoff stage and then play it out for there. And again, they're competing for a $200,000 prize pool, so some solid money. Obviously, really the only play going on right now on top of that. Great competition. But yeah, so these next couple of weeks certainly going to be a lot of fun to follow it and see a lot of these big name teams. You also pointed out, though, you do have to keep in mind there are some substitutes and some roster changes here and there that are in play. One very interesting one I noticed, NIP Ramses is actually playing him for them as Lelis and Universe. I guess so. It's Ramses and Milan are stepping in for Lelis and Universe, of course, them being from the Americas. So, but that kind of segues us into more of a permanent change that has taken place on a team called Alliance. And now this is something.
Have heard of them?
Yeah, they've won a TI in the past. They've done some things, I suppose. Interesting. That's, I guess, the first word I would use. Kind of like dumbfounded. It kind of came out of nowhere. The fact that the announcement happened, Alliance, in late March there last week, they announced no longer going to be playing with Fata as well as 3-3 removed from the team. It's like, okay.
I'm gonna be careful here because I know more information than I don't want to say I know more than I should. Just like talking to people like Blitz and being behind the scenes, you hear about things, but I'm not trying to be like that guy. Oh, I've got a secret and I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Well, I know for a fact this was not an amicable kick. Like, this was not like a mutual agreement amongst.
Oh yeah, I didn't think it was.
33 Fata and all of Alliance. So to the viewers at home wondering, this caught them off guard as well. There's just
Dota,
it's a
man.
weird situation, and all I know from behind the scenes is it's not exactly clear to them why it happened. I'm under the impression myself, my interpretation, the best I can, is that if Alliance has the opportunity and interest from S4 to be added back on, that they would have a hard time justifying to themselves not to do it, if not for any other reason. Obviously, he's a good player, but for the fact that S4's name represents a lot on the Alliance brand itself.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it, is maybe somehow Loda came into talks with S4. Loda's the whole manager and everything of the team. I'm imagining that's how it happened. And with that being said, I'm not 100% sure why they kicked both of them. I think 33 and Fata are a package. I think those two are together. So I guess they were kicking 33, and then Fata decided to go with him after it was all said and done. I also know they wanted S4 as a captain, so maybe they needed to kick their offlaner and the captain at the same time. I'm not. There's a lot of ways it could have gone down, but honestly, it's like you can't really blame Loda if that's like what happened. But at the same time, you also like, is that scummy? Is that like?
I have a
it's up
different
to your
opinion.
Go ahead.
Well, I can blame Loda. I can blame because, like, again, I don't know behind the scenes information necessarily on this, but as you kind of put it there, I think that was a good word to use. This is a brand move. It's pretty evident that the fact that, and I could totally see that scenario. Now, again, I don't know what actually happened, so I'm speaking of just what I could see happening. But the idea that S4 made the strong point, he really wants to come back and play S4. He obviously has history in Dota 2 in general, one of the more popular players. We have the S4 meme and everything. On top of that, Alliance, and does he have ownership in Alliance as well? I actually don't know that. Okay,
I have no idea.
So that could even be part of it too. But whether he does or doesn't, obviously the history is there. So, but what and why I say that certainly feels like that was the case. On top of it just being his history. We're talking about a team that arguably was the second best team in Europe. They're 6th place in the DPC. They've been looking so good as of late. It just made no sense. It's not like they had some poor results recently. It was very, very evident that this was not a mutual agreement. And the announcement came out of nowhere. And yeah, the idea that the 3-3 and fought to being a bit of a package deal, whether he stood up for him or whatever the case is, the captain role, certainly could see that being applicable here. So if that is the case, I hate it. I mean, I guess, contracts are there for a reason, but at the same time, when we talk about, players should honor their contracts with organizations, well, this is why, maybe sometimes that's not the case, because organizations will just go right back and make moves like this, cut the players, and then now all of a sudden 3-3 and Fata are found without a team that was like I said, 6th place in the DPC, and having to figure out what the hell they're going to do now. At this point into the season. So
it's definitely not an improvement in the near future, if not for a long time. That's like the question. S4's never captained before, so maybe they're trying to groom it for next season based on what's happened recently. But at the same time, like, you're qualified for TI pretty much, so it's like, why would you sacrifice the points of losing 2 players? There's a lot of question marks in the air. There's really no way for me to comprehend why, what the crunching the numbers, running all the simulations in your head and be like, this is what we're going to do. And I know what you mean. I say I can't blame Loda simply because I know how the Dota scene works. It's very cutthroat, very harsh, very leapfrog off the guy below you to get what you want out of a situation. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing, and I'm not saying what Loda did is correct, but I am saying that I've seen it enough times at this point to be like, well, there we go again. Just another organization, another roster swap, another maybe premature ending to a story that could have been something great.
Yeah, it's still even talking about it now, I'm still feeling like this actually happened. The funny thing too, funny not so funny, however you want to put it. They made the S4 announcement on April 1st. And so,
yeah, I know. A lot of people are like, is this an April Fool's joke?
Yeah, I'm saying, well, because Admiral Bulldog also chimed in too, like, I'm back, baby. And it's like, okay, well, obviously that's not true.
Bulldog's
but
an idiot.
In a good way, right?
Yeah. Bulldog's a goober, I guess, would probably be a better description of what I mean.
Again, to that point, it's like, when he said, obviously you knew it was a troll. I mean, that's who he is. But then the S4 announcement happened, and it's just like, wait, what? So is this true? Is it? And a couple days later, it's like still the news, and I'm like, oh, and I'm sure like a lot of other people were like, oh, I guess it is true. But then I'm like, wait, they lost 2 players, and now where does that leave them with the other players? So it's it feels odd, and I feel for 3-3. You mentioned he's playing, or he played with OG today, as a stand-in, and obviously don't expect anything there as a permanent move, but 3-3 has been a great player, the upcoming player last year, and has definitely made his strong point this season. Going back to the captain role too, the other thing I don't get there too, Hanskin has a ton of captain and leadership from his previous history. So that's another part of the move where I'm just like, why not just make him the captain then? And but again, that screams more to me that this was a power play with S4, working with the Alliance organizations, that he wanted to be not only a player on the team, but even a captain. So again, we'll see. Will it work out? It's possible it could still work out in the end for them, but I still think it's the way it happened and just how it feels and all of a sudden and everything. It does seem a little not right in many ways. But best of luck to 3-3 and Fata. Obviously, any team would be, happy to have them, I'm sure, especially if they are looking for players themselves. But hey, it is Dota. We obviously have been through plenty of these weird roster shuffles in the past. This is certainly just a more recent one, and what's going to continue to be a thing as we move on, I'm sure. So, okay, that's so that was the Alliance situation. So that's again, Zebe currently is standing in for them. Actually, he's a very solid player. He is Swedish as well, and I know of course, Alliance does have a lot of history with the country of Sweden, so kind of wonder there if that could become more of a permanent thing ultimately. But they may look for a more traditional support player as well. I'm sure Zebe usually is more of a offlane player from his history. So. One other team announcement, again, talking about more permanent changes, that was announced a little bit out of the blue, was LGD International. They announced team LGD themselves of what's Ajit, Black, GY, Bryant, and Ray. So a couple of those names you certainly would recognize, being Ajit and Black specifically. Dominic, always good to see him back and playing. He's just an awesome guy and hasn't had the most success recently, but I don't know if I should have the highest expectations of this team, frankly. They are competing in the Southeast Asia region, though, and we'll see. We'll see what they do, but any thoughts on this team?
Just another team keep an eye out for, but I'm always skeptical of new teams being formed. It's very hard to break into the Dota scene. A lot of the teams in the SA region specifically, such as Boom, as well as Adroit, these are teams that have been together in the same roster for a long time before they've accomplished something of merit. So I just think Dota is a really hard game to play catch up. If a team is better than you, and unless you're taking players from previously tier 1 teams, it's hard. It's hard, man. Even like Dendi putting together his stack. Clearly, they're not terrible, but they're clearly a drastic step down from these other teams they're competing with. Even though OG kind of gave them a close series, I really don't think they're remotely on caliber with OG. Based on that series itself. But I do appreciate the fact that teams like this exist, and I do enjoy watching them try to develop. But a team like this, I'm almost surprised they're forming right now, based on everything going on in the world. But I'm glad to see that organizations are still somewhat interested in adding teams, because we saw the opposite case with MSS here.
Yeah. All right, well, other than that, not too much else happening in the roster shuffle right now, but those are definitely the bigger ones, especially, again, the Alliance situation there. But I think that pretty much takes us to the end, though, of another successful week in the books here, as far as the Wombo Combo podcast goes. So, as always, BSJ, anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, I didn't do the pre-stream, so I do appreciate everyone who's tuned in, and hope you guys enjoyed the show, and everyone who's here in the podcast later on. Just look forward to basically going through this event that I'm on right now, because if you want to see the wild ride, it's kind of just my life for the next 2 weeks. So it's kind of weird, but
are you guys doing the playoffs on top of that, by the way? What's the deal with that?
I'm doing all 14 days of the EU region, I think.
So yeah, because then so that's the group stages, but then there's the playoffs. I don't know if those are actually scheduled yet, I guess, or not.
Maybe not. Okay. Then I'm kind of just going with the flow. I'm
focusing on the now. Yeah.
It's really hard to think more than even 1 or 2 days ahead. So
that's fair.
I'm kind of just well, there's another 10-hour day. If I think about the fact that I'm doing this for 2 weeks in a row, that's a bit overwhelming. So rather I just say, okay, here we go again. 6 hours of sleep and 3 hours at home, and back into the.
Hey, you're gonna hang out with the energy of Grant all day, so I'm sure that helps
it's
too.
Actually a really good time. We were talking about it together. To be all completely honest, we were just like, if we had to do this, we couldn't imagine much other people we'd rather do it with. So it's been really fun, and the group of guys is great, and all the shit we're giving each other on the panel, it's obviously just. And all in good fun. We're actually all good buds. It's been very enjoyable, and I make comments about how exhausting it is, because it is. But it's a great problem to have. You know, it's not. I don't want to sound like I'm whining. I'm not complaining. It's just it is. It's crazy. I do feel my mind deteriorating. I'm like, by the end of the day, you hear me casting, and I've what's the word? I always
crazy.
I try not to think too hard when I'm on my stream or when I'm on the main stream. So I want to make sure I choose the right word. I've devolved into my crappy dad jokes and all that kind of stuff when I get into these late panels. But it's a bonding experience. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, and yeah, it's to definitely back that up. I mean, yes, we love our jobs. You, in your case right now, you love doing what you're doing, but anyone that works a job that requires 12+ hour days, day after day after day, no matter what the job is, it's understandable to be a little bit exhausted from it. But I know, keep it up, man. The grind is real, and definitely not only myself, but I know literally tens of thousands of others are tuning in to watch some great Dota.
Yeah, I just hope everyone's enjoying it with us. Like, that's the goal. Is we're just here to help tell the story or help guide everyone along. And we always it's funny. We always say when we're watching the game, our goal, like Grant says this too, is our goal is when we're watching the Twitch chat of our game that it's not about us. It's just us. We're all sharing the experience together, and that's what we're all going for. And I hope everyone that if you are tuning into this and you haven't tuned into the event, you should definitely check it out. It's been a good time.
All right, I think that's a good note to officially wrap it up on, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for following the podcast, not only throughout the podcast platforms that are out there, but of course on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/PredictionEsports. For those that are tuning in live, shout out to you guys, as mentioned earlier as well. And also any subs that come through definitely help support not only our show, but to all the shows that are under that prediction umbrella right there. So big shout out to BSJ once again, doing the grind, and you guys right now set to be back next week, so looking forward to that already as well. Plenty more Dota to take place within that time. So you guys tuning in, shout out to you. We'll see you guys next week here on the Wombo Combo Podcast. Big shout out one more time also to MSS for joining us.
Right on.
Have a good night,
guys.